Hello everybody. Today I'm making this video about NIO and just what I think about the whole delisting of Chinese companies, because there's a lot of fear going on right now and I don't believe that this fear is justifiable. And I'm going to go into that and what I think about NIO and the companies and how they're going to be doing over the next week, month, year, and whatnot. And first off, I want to go over their 2020 sales. In the beginning of January, we had the issue with the virus that had occurred, so the numbers were, relatively low. But we saw them pick up tremendously. Actually, at one point, we saw them doubling almost in sales, which is incredible. And just just going off this chart, this small chart from 2020, right? You know, we have we have the small sales because of the things that were going on in China and America, and we saw a dip, but then we saw a huge run up, right? Because probably back sales and things like that, and then we saw an increase overall, right? We saw an increase overall in the trend, but we had small pullbacks as well. But overall, if you look at this from a technical point of view, we're just gonna see a lot more sales coming in, and I do believe that Q1 of 2021 will beat Q4 2020 and Q3 2020. I believe that Q1 of 2021 are gonna beat the past quarters tremendously. Like I believe that NIO, similarly to Tesla, is in a snowball effect where NIO is was getting things like their name branding out there, their recognition, their sales, their backing. There was a lot of uncertainty with the company itself. But you have to remember this: if you're a consumer, right, and you compared a NIO and a Tesla in China, NIO has so much more to offer in terms of their services, their quality of vehicle, their battery. But it's not only that though, because if I were a consumer, right, at these points in time, I would be wondering, hey, is this company going to be okay? Yes, they offer a lot of great services. Yes, their vehicles are amazing. Yes, there's a lot of great pros to buying a NIO that just outweighs a Tesla and many of its other competitors as well. But is the company going to be here long enough to accommodate my needs? And that's what this whole phase here answered. Yes, they are. They've increased their cash on hand, they've gotten government backing, they've increased their investors' relations as well. So there's a lot of great things for this company. And before January and up till maybe April, there was a huge moment of time when there's just so much uncertainty with the company that even a consumer would be questioning whether or not it was worthwhile to buy a vehicle from NIO. Because yes, a NIO vehicle is the second biggest investment someone's ever going to make in their life besides real estate. And I would argue that in China, it's probably a bigger deal when it comes to what your second and biggest investment in your life is, which is a vehicle, is, than in America. So, with NIO solidifying itself, getting past the dark phases of the company, a startup, I believe that NIO is only on an upward trajectory, and we definitely do see that. And we're probably going to be increasing our sales overall. And I see Q1 and Q2 especially being the signs of a huge snowball effect with this company in 2021. This is just the start of a snowball. We're going to see everything catch up, from its name brand recognition, investor relationships going up, government backing, more subsidies in the electric vehicle market, and people are ignoring these things because of the fear going on right now, which is crazy. And I want to put that fear aside, because I want to go more into what I think is going on right now. So in my opinion, the reason why Chinese electric vehicle stocks, especially NIO, XPeng, are all being targeted, BABA as well, is because we have the possibility of a bill being passed, which makes it so Chinese companies have to abide by American standards of auditing, which is great, because think about it like this: if you believe that your Chinese company that you're investing in, which wasn't compliant at first and didn't use an American auditor or whatever they call it, well, if China has to abide by the U.S. compliancy and have a U.S. auditor come in and evaluate everything, Well, that just means there's more transparency with the company. And what was the biggest issue with Chinese companies? The lack of transparency, the lack of trust, and this 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 gave a lot of uncertainty to investors. Another way to look at it is that when Joe Biden won, right, the Electoral College on November 3rd, we saw Chinese stocks go up, we saw energy stocks go up, we saw electric vehicle stocks go up because a Joe Biden victory meant that electric vehicles would be pushed more. It also meant that new energy and new technologies would be pushed more. It also meant that better relationships with China would occur. And that's why a lot of these stocks went up on November 3rd. And, you know, I only see that going up once Joe Biden's in the House. I only see these things going up as Joe Biden increases our relationship with China in a better way. And, but this delisting fear is challenging that narrative of better relations with China. But I believe that this is silly. It's a silly reason to let Chinese stocks go down in value because if your stock complies with these with the U with U.S. standards, then your stocks are going to go up tremendously, and that's the way I think people should be looking at it. They should be looking at it like this: if my company complies with U.S. standards, and there's more transparency and more certainty with investor relations, then that means more people are going to be confident and not have anti-Chinese sentiment when investing in Chinese companies. So that's a great thing in my opinion, because we just saw what a Joe Biden victory did to Chinese companies. So if they find out that, hey, everything I've done, everything that I've audited, I've never did any kind of fraudulent numbers or cooking on the books, this will only increase investor relationship, and you're going to see more people more smart money, more large money, more hedge funds, more banks, more analysts be even more positive on companies like NIO because they have complied with the rules. And we saw a lot of things going on, right? Like here's one example. See all these analysts right here? I don't particularly care what they think. At least not too much when I'm coming to my own price prediction. But today we had Goldman Sachs upgrade NIO to $59 today, December 1st. What does that mean to you? I don't know what it means to you, but when you have Bank of America, who recently came out saying that NIO is worth $50 plus dollars, 54 I believe, Credit Suisse saying it's over 50, Citi, CCI, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, all these people who are saying that NIO is worth more than $50, even during now in November they've said that, even today they're saying that. Again, Goldman Sachs, the $7 guy, literally just said today NIO is worth $59. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, but that means a lot to me because that shows that, hey, these guys have insider information. These guys know more than what us retailer investors do. If there were any speculations about NIO not complying with the auditing rules, they would not come out and give NIO a $50 plus target. They would be against NIO and a $50 price target. So, it speaks volumes in that aspect that there's a strong possibility that NIO is complying properly, and that if they were to be audited by U.S. standards, it's fine. Another thing I'm looking at as well is what institutions are in NIO. So if we look at the major holders, right? It's only 0.67% of shares held by insiders, 43% shares held by institutions, and 546 numbers of institutions holding shares. And we have big names like Bailey Gifford, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street Corporation, JP Morgan, and I don't know any of the other ones, but these are a lot of big names here that have a lot to lose, and they have information that we simply do not. We also have things like Vanguard, iShares, Bailey Gifford, more Vanguard, BlackRock somewhere in here as well, I believe. And we also have other things as well, but another person who's not too mentioned too much is Ray Dalio, for example, who has only increased his shares even as Citron is trying to short NIO. So what does this mean to me? It means that NIO is relatively safe in my opinion, going off these based off these informations. Again, there's only so much that us retail investors know, so we have to follow what smart money and big analysts say to sort of come to our own conclusion on what we should do moving forward. So I'm overall bullish on NIO. I don't think that the delisting is a big issue at all. If it so happens that I am right, and I do believe in NIO as a company and that they're following the procedures of auditing and accounting, well, that just means that more investor relationships are going to increase, and NIO is just going to go up even more because it's more confidence. And we're going to see bigger hedge funds, bigger investors buy into NIO because there's more certainty. Another thing we need to look at is and consider is what's going on right now. So we'll take a look at the share price going on right now, and we will do, let's take a look at whatever this max is right here. There we go. So for a long time this company has stayed at the relatively low single digit numbers, and after the Hefe agreement, or whatever they call it, NIO shot up tremendously, and it's only been going up since then. So right over here in November, let's see if we can find that if we go closer. This is a 3-month chart. Let's see, November, here we go, November. So from the beginning of November, after Joe Biden victory was probably priced in. As I've said before, a Joe Biden victory means electric vehicle and Chinese stocks go up. And look, we had this huge run up, right? We had this huge run up. And now we have some profit taking right here and here, right? So what do I think is going to happen from here? I personally believe that this is probably the best time to buy in to or increase your position. And why do I think that? Silly, right? Or weird. But, I look at it as a great buying opportunity because we're at peak fear mode. Tomorrow is the day when they decide how they're going to go about this whole bill with the Chinese and how they're going to be auditing stocks and all that stuff and their compliance and stuff. So tomorrow is the day. After tomorrow, after December 2nd, all the fear and panic is going to be gone because there's going to be certainty. So for Monday and Tuesday, the past 2 trading days, was probably the best time to buy into NIO once again, because after that, it's all certainty. Also, even if this bill is passed, Chinese companies have what I believe until January 2020. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know for sure, but I believe they have 3 years to comply with this. So that's a lot of time right there. And even if it is, 2 or 3 years, I believe 3 years, the sooner the company comes out and starts complying with U.S. Standards and regulations, that's just going to increase the investor relationship more, which makes the company go up. So what do I think is going on? I think personally this is a big short attack. It's a big bear attack that and I think it's one of the best opportunities to do so. When you have a huge run up with NIO, and I would argue that this was based more upon things beyond NIO's fundamentals. It was more about a Joe Biden victory, the society and how we look at electric vehicles, and the narrative about electric vehicles and new energy stocks and new energy and just electric vehicles in general. This is the perfect time for someone like Andrew Left to come out and say, hey, I don't believe in NIO's price because we need a pullback. It was overdue for a pullback for a very long time. So, I see that Andrew Left coming out from Citron saying that NIO is overvalued was the start of it, and it was challenged. Someone like Ray Dalio even bought more at that time. We saw the same thing with Tesla happen years back as well, and so this is the start of the downward trajectory. Then we had the delisting fears come up once again, which it's not really something to be scared of. It's actually a great thing in my opinion, especially for investor relationships. And I don't really see I don't see this as a bad thing at all. I think it's a really good thing. But if you're trying to short a stock, you're definitely going to spin the narrative in a bad way, as many ways as possible, right? Which is why we also have something simple as profit taking being turned into an Andrew left short, along with a delisting fear, to equal something so big. But in my opinion, this will be forgotten next week. This will be forgotten in 2 weeks from now completely, and we'll go back to moving upward in upward trajectory. So why do I believe that today is probably one of the best days to buy? Why do I believe that tomorrow is possibly another good day to buy? Why do I believe in general that this week is a great time to buy? Well, we are at peak fear right now, where everyone's anticipating the possibility of a delisting, which is not really delisting. Everybody is trying to figure out what to do next because a lot of uncertainty, so fear kicks in. Best time to buy right now. And we had such a huge run up that even if this were just profit taking, I mean, it makes sense why Andrew Left came out, right? Because after a huge run up, why not challenge it now, get it done with? And why is this good? It's a consolidation period, in my opinion. This is what fortifies the company tremendously. When you have a company that's relatively undervalued to the potential and other electric vehicle companies in its position, this is the time where true consolidation happens. This is the time when you start fortifying the investor's relation. This is the time when you really figure out how much your company is worth when it's challenged this much. And overall, it's looking pretty good to me. I think that now is a good time to buy. So what did I do personally? Well, I'm going to be watching smart money. I'm going to see what large hedge funds do. I'm going to be watching what institutional buyers do. I'm going to be watching what they do to better gauge what I should do moving forward, because these people have information that I simply do not. So even if I do believe in the company, depending on what they do will heavily dictate the stock price. But I do believe that this pullback was necessary, and that it's just that shorts are capitalizing on it as hard as they can, and it's because of that we're definitely going to find new bases for this company. So I have actually sold out of things like Hawaiian Airlines, for example. I have sold out on my Hanes brand as well. I have sold out on a few other companies that I'm investing in because I'm up over 100%, if not more, on these companies. I don't see much volume in them. They're not very volatile either. I see a lot of money to be made in the electric vehicle sector, because the whole electric vehicle sector as a whole has been hit tremendously. And if you actually look at companies like Workhorse or Planeter, which things I don't really follow in particular, you'll see that they've all kind of did something very similar in their charts on a technical basis. So I think there's a lot of manipulation going on, and it only makes sense. I would do the same thing if I were short. And now, personally, I think this is a great time to buy. So I'm going to be buying in more around these prices, and I'm going to be looking carefully for more opportunities to buy. And so I'm not really worried about delisting at all. I think that the banks and the large hedge funds and analysts speak way more volumes than the jib jab going on in the marketplace right now. And I'm definitely I see a lot of correlation between NIO and Tesla, and I think it's a great thing. So I will be buying more. I've been waiting for this for a long time. I wouldn't have bought in without knowing there was a consolidation period, and now is the time to buy it. I only see NIO doing better in Q1 of 2021 compared to Q4 because of the snowball effect I saw similarly with Tesla. And when you're evaluating a company, right, I don't just look at the company. I look at the economics around it. I look at things going on around it. I look at the general consensus of what my company is doing and where it's at, and how poised it is to either do well or not well at all. So we have here the sales. The EC6 has pretty much doubled in sales from around 800 to 1,518. We have beat the month-over-month sales. We have beat the year-over-year sales as well. And I do want to go over something as well that which also makes me bullish on NIO as a company. Now, I again, I look at more of the economic point of view. Like I look at the economy and then I look at the market and then I look at other things as well before I actually start looking at the company itself. And in my opinion, because I look at things this way, if when the transparency with Chinese companies become better after this bill is passed, in my opinion, NIO is just going to do better along with many other Chinese companies. That's what I think. I don't believe that the U.S. has a leverage that it once did over China where they can win a trade war. That is why Trump could not win a trade war with China. Even if he wanted to, he simply could not. And that's just how things are. I'm not here to argue with anybody about it. I'm not here to talk politics too much about it. I don't really care about who you voted for, but it can be either a win-win situation or we benefit off each other, or it can be a lose-lose where we both lose. And I with how I see things, China might dethrone US of their number one spot, and that's not a bad thing. China's beating us on many metrics. As a country, I would feel sort of threatened too if the number one spot was meant a lot to me. But I see a lot of things in the future moving forward for NIO, and one of the biggest things I see in particular is the robo taxi concept, and this market is such a huge market, and I see NIO capitalizing on that in China. Why? Because they have Nomi, which is an AI system that can interact with people, and you're gonna need something to pay people with, and you're gonna need some kind of AI interactive system that can service your robo taxis, right? Instead of a person, you're gonna have an AI system, Nomi, who you talk to. And when you have things like China, where you have things like like a AI system that takes pictures of you, when you have a credit system where you are followed and you can't do things like steal things, um, it would be really easy to track a robo-taxi customer in a NIO vehicle if they were to steal something from the vehicle or if they were to damage it, because the Nomi system is going to be able to see who has ridden in the vehicle at what time and when. So, you know, you may not like China for what it is, but it's because of these things I see NIO and an AI or in a robo taxi service doing way better in China than I do in America. I also see the autonomous driving as well. It's when I also believe that there's more news regards to Mobileye, and it's because of these things. NIO is just poised to do so well when it comes to robotaxi. And then you also have the battery as a service technology as well. So what does this mean? It just means that if you have an autonomous driving robotaxi, instead of having to manually charge this robotaxi with a charging cable, inserting it yourself, it just means that this autonomous robotaxi can drive up to any battery swap station, swap the battery out without having anyone there, and then going back on the streets and servicing the people again, which is such a big deal. It cuts down the manpower and the cost of labor even more. And I don't think people are considering what battery swapping services do, what battery as a service means for the people. It could also potentially, if NIO does it properly, where they set up swapping stations all over China, for example. If there's a newer electric vehicle company that wants to cut down on production costs, instead of having to manufacture the battery or buy the battery from a producer, instead they can just lease their NIO battery. They can just lease out batteries from NIO, and by determining how many vehicles they are going to manufacture, and these lower end vehicles, electric vehicles can just lease their batteries from NIO, cutting the upfront costs even more, which would be beneficial for old automakers transitioning into the electric vehicle space and new electric vehicle companies transitioning into the market as well. And also, if done properly, and NIO in 5 to 10 years now does capitalize on the battery swap service technology, and they have thousands and thousands of stations everywhere in China, well, even lower end vehicles if they subscribe to the battery swap services, can buy into this as well. Because if there's thousands and thousands of NIO swap stations everywhere, and you lease your battery, and you're a different company, and you have a lower end vehicle, but you have an interchangeable NIO battery that can adapt to a NIO battery by putting inserts into it, much like an adapter does. You can also use the battery swap station services as well, but this is not something anytime soon. This is probably something in 5 to 10 years from now. I do believe in this heavily because as a concept and a possibility, because we see XPeng and NIO teaming up already with their charging stations. So, I definitely do see older vehicle manufacturers and newer vehicles leasing out batteries as a service, and then cutting the upfront costs of transitioning into the EV space as well. So I think that the battery technology is heavily undervalued and not really understood for what it could and can be. So with that being said, if you believe in your company, if you think that your Chinese company is complying with US auditing procedures and standards, I think that your company is only going to go up from here. So I do believe that now is a wonderful time to buy. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm never going to pretend to be one, but I do have an opinion of my own, and I see a lot of great things for this company. I've been in NIO and Tesla for the longest time I can remember. I've seen darker days than this. So, with that being said, I hope you all have a great day. And, don't let the fear get to you. Do a lot of research and come to your own conclusion. I see a lot of people just following what other people say. So, take my advice with a grain of salt and do your own research.